Why aren't Riley Moss and Marvin Mims seeing more snaps? So, Sean Payton addressed that today in his press conference. He was asked mostly about Riley Moss, and he actually dropped Marvin Mims' name a little bit too in his answer. He said that there are several factors that are going into the decision not to play them right away. So, let's take a listen to what Sean has to say here.
Vision with players with Riley Moss at this point, just given the way he's behind? Is it mostly special teams university, or could you see him?
Listen, it's a great question, and it's the same question every week when we look at the stat line, and I'm like, man, I got to get Mims more touches. The vision for him is outside corner. Do I think he can play nickel? Yes, but he's long. He's prototype for the outside position. So we just got to keep looking at ways where, within each plan, can we use him? Clearly, we like him in the kicking game.
He was then asked this follow-up question by Andrew Mason that I really liked.
Developing a player, is it possible to put that player out there too soon before they're ready and hinder their development?
Listen, I think so. I think depending on the position, they might be coming off an injury, they might be young. Sometimes there's going to be some growing pains on the field, and that's part of the deal, And so if you're talking about a young player and you go back to those early years with Peyton Manning, and Indy but those were learning, it's hard to simulate some of that. And then now if you're talking about health, I think it's that balance of, kind of re-entry. But I think your question was relative to their development as a young player. You play them when you feel like they help give you a chance to win. And I feel strongly in a number of these young guys. I mean, the same way with Sanders, Drew. I mean, continue to look at how many snaps can we give him. He's progressing, and so those are good problems with young players, but I hope I answered it right.
Well, there you go. So I feel like especially in the case of somebody like Riley Moss, they don't want to throw him into the fire too soon when he's maybe not ready for that extended level of a role and then ruin his confidence. I understand that Broncos country is frustrated, especially with the level of play that we're getting from Damari Mathis right now, and we really want to see somebody like Moss get snaps over him. But based on the way that Sean was talking, especially after the question asked by Andrew Mason, that kind of may seem to be where the Denver Broncos are with Riley Moss right now, is they just don't feel like he's quite ready yet. And Sean said it himself, what are you going to do to give us a good chance to win? And they're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place with two young players in Riley Moss and Damari Mathis who may not necessarily be ready. When it comes to Riley Moss, I feel like the Broncos just may not want to put him out there too early and risk wrecking his confidence. But conversely, Sean also alluded to somebody like Drew Sanders who got thrown into the fire in that Miami game, I believe it was, and he really struggled in that game. And same thing in the Chicago game, he also kind of struggled, but got better as the game went on. So I feel like with somebody like Drew Sanders, for example, he's somebody who has been able to respond well by getting thrown into the fire and going through some of those growing pains as a young player. I'm hoping that Riley Moss could experience a similar thing. The Broncos are getting him work right now on the kickoff coverage unit, but I'm hoping that they at least give him a chance to get some reps in there. Start rotating him in with Damari Mathis at bare minimum just to get him some of that experience. I'm totally okay with that because right now we need to see what we have in various young players. Now, when it comes to Marvin Mims, the Broncos have tried to utilize Marvin Mims in various ways. But we also saw where in that Jets game, it felt like things kind of flipped off a little bit and the frustrations with Mims started to boil over. Obviously, he had that fumble on the bumbled exchange on the reverse with Samaje Perine, and then also the mistake on the kickoff. Those are young player mistakes that you just have to work through. And I really wanted to see Sean Payton lean into that confidence even more with Marvin Mims and try to scheme him open multiple times during that Kansas City game and just try to get some of his confidence back as a young player. Unfortunately, that did not happen. So I'm hoping that maybe they try to make up for it this week against Green Bay. And the Packers are dealing with multiple injuries right now in the secondary. There's a strong chance that their number one corner, Jair Alexander, might not play. And there's a strong chance that their nickel Rasul Douglas might not play as well, if I'm not mistaken. So those are opportunities right there for the Denver Broncos to take advantage of Marvin Mims. And there's no excuse for him to not to get more touches, just like Sean alluded to here. But there's reasoning why some of these young players have maybe been asked to take a little bit of a step back. I don't necessarily agree with that philosophy, just because right now we're in the midst of a rebuild. We're trying to see what we have in these young players, and I get that you're trying not to wreck their confidence, but at the same time, you got to play your young players, man. You just have to. All right, Broncos country, I'm curious if you guys agree with me or if you agree with Sean on this one. Drop those comments down below, guys. I would love to hear your thoughts, as always. Be sure to leave a like on this video, as well as subscribe and ring the bell so these videos appear in your notification feed. I would really appreciate it, guys. Those are two free and easy ways to show your support. Helps tell YouTube's algorithm to push us out and helps us get seen by more and more members of Broncos country, just like you and me. And until next time, guys, I'm your host, Gage Madrid, saying peace out.